and make it grow and make the world a better place. So how can we inspire that? But before we get into that, let's everyone introduce each other. So to my guest here on the right, Mr. Zhou Jinfeng, if I pronounce it right.
My name is Jinfeng Zhou from China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development. This is my first time to Netherlands, and I enjoyed the trip. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Milan Meyberg. I am a sustainability strategist and former Revolution manager at Digital Festival, where I focus on sustainability, innovation, and technology, and to use our festival as a living lab to test new technologies and social constructs and new protocols and ideas to eventually create the very first zero-waste circular festival.
Hi everyone, I'm Tommy Hendriks from Yin Yang Music Festival. We have an electronic music festival at the Great Wall of China. Also MIDI Electronic Festival, which is an electronic music festival, take place in Shanghai. And also we founded this event, China Pavilion. So yeah, that's me.
I'm Rainbow Gao, and besides the festival, 3 of them he just said, I also have a club called Dimension. It's a house running a party every weekend. In Shanghai, yes, exactly.
Yes, and well, good to have this introduction. And to speak for myself, I come from a kind of semi-sustainable family with organic food and I grew up on the countryside with some nice animals in the garden and stuff. But I was curious, what motivated you all to aim for sustainability and make it a goal? Yeah, let's start with you.
In fact, that's my job. My foundation is focused on green development, and our business cover almost the 17 SDG, all the 17 goals of SDG. And what brought me here is because I participate in the Yin Yang Festival. That is amazing. That is one of the best festivals I have ever been. So it's really good. And they combined the concept. They have a plan to plant trees through the festival's donation. That's even more amazing because that's not only the planting of trees, but the awareness of all attendants, for the influence, that's great. And in the past, I'm doing quite a lot of job in the SDG area, but it's not that influential, especially to the young people. After I attended this festival, I said, oh, I mean, this is so great. I want to follow, to join. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe Rainbow can explain a bit more about this tree link with the festival, so everyone knows it.
Okay, I have been running like a music event since long time, and actually in the music field, we always want to be the pioneer. So the pioneer means we don't focus on money, we don't focus on commercial, but still not enough. Feel okay, I didn't do enough for the world. Just why I get all the pioneer together, just having fun, get fucked up? No, we want to do something better for the world. So how? And now we figure actually, like just before the professor said, in China, you see the water if it's blue, or the land if it's green, or the sky if it's clear. It's important for people to sing, to feel, oh, the environmental problem is serious now. So then I feel in Beijing, in Shanghai, everywhere in China, you breathe really, really dirty air. So how can we join it to do something? Then we found, Tommy also searched online and found the professor. I found the Professor Da Liangjun, found out there's a Miyawaki forest technician, which you spend so little money and make the forest can maintain itself after a few years, can grow faster, and also protect the nature. So then think, okay, now I can do, because through our music festival, if people follow us, maybe every ticket is sold, we can get a little bit money put together to plant this kind of forest. So that's how we started from Yin Yang Music Festival this year. we generate like maybe 30 kwai from each ticket, 30 RMB like €4. And then we start to build forest in Tianjin. That's the project.
Yes, I just want to add a little bit more information about the whole project. So from my side, why did I enter like ecology field? Maybe because I'm getting a little bit older. And I was just not only interested in nightlife anymore, a little bit less in nightlife and more in ecology. So that's my background, how I get into this. And then for in China, even more than in the Netherlands, I feel the government and reaching out to the people is a really huge gap. So in China, the government is doing much more on the field of ecology than in the Netherlands. However, it's really a government thing. And for all my Chinese and Shanghainese friends, nobody cares about ecology. Nobody is thinking also only the slightest bit about ecology, which means the government, in a way, is doing a great job with huge projects, but it's not doing a great job with connecting to young people. And yeah, that's a market, that's a field which we are in, and we're pioneering to find out how can we reach young Chinese kids and youngsters.
Well, that's a good link to Milan, because Milan has been working in the entertainment industry as a DJ and promoter for quite some time. So Milan, how did you end up in trying to make this industry a bit more green and sustainable? What was...
Well, after I think about 15 years of DJing and organizing events, I realized the power that the events industry and influence it has on the minds and the attitudes of all the thousands, tens of thousands of people participating in festivals, in events. In the Netherlands, I think there are up to 900 festivals each year, which are bigger than 20,000 people, and even hundreds and hundreds of more smaller festivals. So the total reach of those festivals in the age group of 18 to 35 is somewhere around 90%, 95%. So, and all those people, they come together to obviously enjoy the festival, have a great time, experience the sound and the people around them. But after the end of the festival, most of the time there's so much waste. All the trash created from consumption, and which is a true shame. It's actually a blight on the environment and on the surroundings. So I figured, well, this can't go on forever. There must have been new ways to redesign a festival to make it more sustainable and eventually create new structures which could also not only benefit festivals, but could also be applied outside of the festivals. So for example, if we're able to create a circular festival for 40,000 people, and I mean 40,000 people, that's a small city, with zero waste, managing water, managing energy, managing logistics, then I figured maybe it's possible that we can do the same outside of the boundaries of a festival. So that's when we started coming up with new solutions for composting, for example, or reclaiming phosphites from urine, reusing compost for local urban farmers, and thus reducing our entire impact. And now, after 2 years of experimenting, we're actually producing less waste per visitor on a day at a festival than an average citizen in the city of Amsterdam. So it's now statistically more sustainable to come party at Digital for a day than to stay at home.
Yes, nice. Yeah, because I know very good. I would prefer that. And last year there was, or was it already 2 years ago, there was a good example of how it's impacting on normal society, because at a certain moment you guys decided that you were not selling meat again at the festival anymore. And I saw the Facebook page exploding, or people at the Spits or the metro, those news things, because people said, like, I have right on my meat, and some people said, no, it's good that they're trendsetting, and it was really a discussion that you guys sparked.
Yeah, that was absolutely fascinating what just happened. So I must say this is before I joined the digital team, so this was from my predecessor, but basically the idea was that if you want to be truly sustainable, you can't serve meat. The consumption and the production of meat and all the logistics inquired are one of the biggest contributors to climate change. Basically, the best thing you can do for the climate, which is within your own power, is to just stop eating meat. It's that simple. So, but because we have the power to control what we offer our visitors, we decided to go veggie, meat-free, and explain in detail to 40,000 people why we decided to do so. And then there was a really big discussion. You can't take away my meat. How dare you decide I should be a vegetarian? And we were like, well, we're not forcing you to buy a ticket to the festival. It's just that we decided to create a vegetarian restaurant. I mean, you're free to do what you want, but that's the fun point. What happened next is that the debate caught on, and people who actually went to the festival, they enjoyed the many vegetarian meals and all the meat replacement products, most of them even for the first time. And then actually the response was really well. So people actually said, well, yeah, you guys have a strong point, maybe we should get on with this. And now more and more festivals are deciding to go meat-free, and that's because we took a chance. And now more and more festivals realize that it is a strong argument for going meatless.
Well, if we link that to China, in China people like to eat some meat. I noticed. And so I think
I want to
curious how you
comment
would see
that.
that. In the future, would that change? What do you think about
We
it?
have to change. We have to change on that. I would like to say, for meat hamburger compared with a vegetable hamburger, the meat hamburger need about 4,000 liter fresh water to make a meat one hamburger. But for vegetable, we only need about 200. It's a big difference. We do not have that much fresh water. Sustainably speaking, it's good. But that's not enough. It's good for the planet. What about ourselves? It's really good for people. Because compared with the US, they have big issue of overweight. They have big issues of many diseases related with over meat consumption. In China, the government has suggested that the average consumption of meat right now in China is much higher than the government suggestion already, which means we already eat too much meat in China. But compared with the US, we are much less. Anyway, but it's good for your health, and it's really important for the environment, for the climate, for the planet. And why not? And all we need, we have organized several tours. I invite the associate vice president of Yale University to China to go tour to 10 major universities to teach, to educate the university administrative to have less meat supply for the university students. I tell them, for commercial restaurant, the boss need care more about the customer. But in university, you give them vegetable, mushroom instead of meat. They have to come back to you tomorrow for sure, because the restaurant of university in campus is convenient for students. You have to go. In that case, why don't you force them to go further on this? But this is compared with his way, this is not good enough. Those pioneers, the influence not only the attendees, the few thousand, some of them changed their behavior. Some of them tell their friends. Those young people are pioneers, are fashion, are the model for many people to follow. that influence is beyond. Thank you.
So is it a task for the government or for the influencers, the cool companies that drive people into this?
Yes. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, or maybe Rainbow.
Okay. I just say my experience, like I don't influence many people, I don't have a power, but I have the mansion. So at the mansion, we have a free hostel. So the free hostel offer 1 meal per day. So I asked Ayi, the maid, to cook only vegetables. So then the people who live at the mansion, they had to become vegetarian. So many of them became vegetarian and they enjoyed it. Also, when they become vegetarian, they still look cool, look better, better skin, better smell. And this also kind of like a hero, like sample for young people to learn from. So it mentioned pretty working out, but not in the society.
Yes, and well, if we look to the situation in the world in general, like Tommy, you lived quite some years in China, and you come from the Netherlands. The differences in the Netherlands and in China and the rest of the world, could you share your vision on that? How the movement of going towards a more sustainable world is going in your idea?
Yeah, I feel like in China, I've been living now in Shanghai for 6 years. And 6 years ago, when I was living in Shanghai, there were sometimes nights that there was so much pollution that the moon, the color of the moon was green. And that's not the natural color. That's really like scary. And now, 5 years later, actually, the pollution level is already way less than before. So from that point of view, I see a huge difference. Whereas when I come back now to Amsterdam, it's every year exactly the same. But I mean, we also don't have a major problem here, of course. It can much better, but there is not a significant change. So that for me is the biggest difference between China and the Netherlands. Or maybe in the Netherlands, I see a lot of projects which, like the Netherlands, they're really good in creative ideas, and they're really good in the one idea has to be cooler and more interesting than the other idea, but maybe sometimes it's missing a little bit to reach the masses. So this is a problem which in China, the government is like, okay, then we just put so much billion and we just do it ourselves. We don't need a creative people to come like with the best new plastic bottle or the most fashionable new this kind of thing. That's a big difference. The Netherlands, it's really good in creating ideas, and in China, it's really government-based, less cool. Yeah.
Yeah, for instance, for people, it's interesting to know that in China, every scooter is electric. Like you get a big fine if you don't drive it.
Yeah.
Like on the countryside.
I used to have a gas scooter, and then I drove on it, and then the police stopped me and said, like, in 2 weeks you're not allowed to drive on it anymore. And then I still had it, and then I went to the gas station to get new gas, and they said, no, sorry, by law you're not allowed to get gas anymore. Then I paid some extra money, I could still get it, but 2 weeks later they confiscated it again, and my scooter was gone, but I sort of, in a way, I appreciated it. Because 1 month later, everybody was driving around on electric scooters. And I think that's really showing great power and really the mentality to change something. You cannot change something with always keep everybody happy. Sometimes you have to change it, just be strict and do it. Otherwise, you cannot make a big change. And that's the Chinese mentality, I think.
And, well, going back to Milan, if we would have to make a radical change in Holland towards this process and the government had to change something, what would be your suggestion to them to say, like, hey, this is a first important big step?
Wow, I never really thought of that question.
If carte blanche, Tweede Kamer is fine with it, what you do, you can decide.
What would the government need to do? I think they at first need to recognize the potential of current social structures already in place. And what we did is show that we are able, on a social platform or an event platform or an influencer platform, are able not to reach just 40,000 people in one location, but by combining all the social reach from our Facebook accounts and social media and YouTube and all the other media in place. And I know that in China this is of course with different channels, but our total reach was in the millions. So we were able to share, not only share our ideas and our concepts with the people present, but indirectly with millions of others. So this ripple effect goes way out there. Now, the way I see government is they use top-down structures to try, most of the time, to try change. And I believe that real change comes from bottom up. All great social changes, and we're talking about a great social change, comes from the bottom up. And so they have to meet each other somewhere in the middle. So I think towards the government is find out how those platforms can be actually used to achieve common goals. Yeah, I think that's it.
There's not the one specific measure that say like, hey.
No, there's so. I mean, there's. Yeah. If it all makes sense, close all the coal plants. I mean, this isn't rocket science. You know, they know what to do. Close the coal power plants, and then you often come into no, this is not possible, or investment, and basically it comes down to money and power structures. So the current money and power structures, they keep the pollutants in place. Look at Shell, for that matter, the biggest oil bad guy in the Netherlands. I mean, everyone knows what needs to be done, but because current government structures allow for these other power structures, these corporations to control it, the incentive is lost.
Well, that's a good link to my next question, because that was, is it money or is it the mindset that makes the change? Because of course it's both, but what's important in that? And also,
could I really quickly, it's definitely the mindset that wants change, and it's the power that prevents change. But it also works the other way around. So if new people with the right mindset come into power, then we'll see change as well. So hopefully in the next 20 years or so, we see more and more millennials who were raised on these topics. They see the importance of these topics to raise into power. Then we'll actually start to see some radical changes, not just, you know, het poldermodel.
Yeah. And Mr. Zhou, could you tell us something about China is now making big steps and fast in this process? Also because it was necessary, but also because they have a vision for the coming 50 years or how this should be. Could you explain us a bit more about this vision?
After the openness, China, the fast development, we have very serious environmental issues and the ecological issues. Within such limited territory, we have 1.4 billion people. The environment, the ecological resources are also very limited. I think is the time we must change, and that's definitely is the foundation for the recent policy change. Of course, we have our structure, governance has these advantages over to move fast, but still the Netherlands, the European, has a lot we need to learn, especially the creativity, the diversified society, and the freedom people's idea and new things. And I think the cooperation is essential, is very important. And if we can work together, we can make the world better. Thank you.
Like, I'm not an expert about China, but I spent like 3 months to read the book of Xi Jinping, The Governance of China, which was a really incredibly difficult book to get through it. And to answer your question, like some strategy for China, which I thought was quite remarkable and interesting, is to make a whole new economy based on new technologies and making money with green development. So making money by becoming the green development country of the world with the cheapest solar powers, all these kind of things. I think this in the Netherlands, like you said, the money institutions, they are still a little bit scared to change because they don't think they can make more money with it. For example, Shell could also use a lot of money to start produce really cheap solar power, but they don't do it. And China, by the government, really pushes this as a new way to make the coming 30 years incredibly huge amounts of money by bringing ecology all around the world. And that's a very strong governmental policy on this direction.
Yes. So you say it's also a lot about the long-term thinking, that in the end the companies also would be better off if they just look ahead a bit more.
Yes. And I mean, like, for most of the people on the planet, they work every day to pay a living. So most of them, they will only start to think ecological when it's more cheap to get solar power than to not use solar power. It's you can have a lot of cool ideas, but at the end of the day, most people will only do it if it saves money.
But yeah, because that's the main thing. Like, will the companies change their mindset, the way they work, if the government does not force them? That's quite common.
Talk about in China.
Well, for instance, in the Netherlands, in China, because a lot of these changes occurred because the government doesn't.
Would you like to answer the question, or was it for the Netherlands? Yeah.
For both.
Well, the question was, will corporations change if the government won't force them? Is that that's the question?
Yes.
The answer is yes, but slowly, and we don't have time, and in accordance to the will of the shareholders. So, unfortunately, most business models, current business models, don't allow for a rapid shift in new structures. So corporations, they take the safe route and make this a time issue. And I believe that corporations have to start forcing, government have to start forcing a time schedule on corporations, for example. Yeah.
And I'm curious how you guys all see how this whole movement can become a bit cooler. Like, digital is doing it in a cool way, but often sustainability is not the most sexy topic, and a lot of people still want to do cool things, so they need to be associated with something that's cooler than you make the world better or you save it. That's what people heard for so many years. So do you have examples or ideas how
It's basically the same thing that's been going on for centuries. It's role models. It's always been about role models, either a teacher or a DJ or a producer, or it could be a famous poet or a writer. It doesn't matter. I mean, if those leading people in culture express new values, a new way of thinking, a new social mentality, and if this social mentality is based on ecology, or not the preservation of nature, but the regeneration of nature, and if those cool people convey this attitude, then eventually the masses will follow. It has always been this way.
Do you also see it like that in China? And
Yes.
who could be the people leading that revolution?
Like DJ or young, very famous stars, and their activity. I would like to give an example. Yao Ming, the NBA, the Chinese NBA, basketball, Yao Ming, he make the advertisement. Something like in English, something like no eating, no killing. So that single advertisement and his advocacy caused the shark fin business just going down directly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just a great example for you that in the past, and almost all restaurants in Beijing offer shark fin, but now it's really hard to find shark fin in restaurant.
Oh, well.
Yeah, all of a sudden, just in a very short time, everything changed. The people follow the leaders, follow the famous people's activity. Thank you.
Well, also the same question to Rainbow. Who are the people in China that you think could make this mindset change among the young people or the people that are being influenced by them?
I feel like, let's say, I have a contact with a lot of young people which was born after 95 or after 2000. They really care about environmental problem. That's what I see personally. The thing is, I don't know, people need role models. I don't know, it's a human's nature. Right now, since the past generations, the role model is like getting rich, be a successful businessman or something like that. But if this role model idea changed, especially use Chinese government power to make, okay, the people get rich by destroying environment, and this person, even whatever car he has, whatever girl he got, we look down on him. If you have this attitude, it can change. So that's why I think, okay, so what people like the most right now maybe the music, the art, and some creativity, some like a network events get a lot of people. But if you say you only do some ecology meetings, maybe less people. So why not, through our music event, bring people to understand more ecology projects by very beautiful, creative, and sexy way. And that can work.
Yeah, so sexy is the key word still, it turns out. Yeah. So let's make sustainability sexy again, or not again, in general. I can imagine that there's also some people sitting out here who have some questions to this excellent panel. Does anyone have a question? Or maybe we can think of a question? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually, I would like to ask some questions from the academic perspective. It's actually because I'm a student of communication science. Yeah, it's actually, I hear about your work, and then it things like the public intervention about how to cultivate the people's intention to, things like to focus on the ecological development, or maybe things like to cultivate their conscious about the environment. I just wonder, how can you make use of your event to tell people about the story? I mean that things like the storytelling invention, because they things like a really nice strategy to to make sure that people can continue their intention, and then to protect the environment during their later future. I just wonder about that. That thing's too academic, right?
Okay. Sorry, I don't think I get all what you want to say, but
Okay.
I just want to give one example. Yeah, we just had October 3 days. The first 3 days we had a MIDI electronic music festival. You know, in China, whatever you do, electronic music festival, whatever, people threw cigarette on the floor. Maybe if there's enough garbage bin, they put bottle in the garbage bin, but normally they don't. So what we did, we hire a team, volunteer team. Everybody looks super cool. Maybe the girl with the all blue hair, the guy looks super sexy. We let them to pick up all the garbage through the festival. It really worked, because people say, wow, such cool person, pick up bottles, I will not throw on the floor. If it's like normal working people doing it, they don't care. So that's one example we did.
I just want to add one thing to this. That in China, usually the people who clean the streets, they're really the super poor people. So usually at festivals also, it's the super poor people. So nobody wants to be like the super poor people. And at our festival, the location was much cleaner because it was cleaned by other youngsters. So people start to feel ashamed, like why I throw away my thing, but my friend or the same age person who is also a festival visitor is cleaning my garbage. But when it's a poor person, they are not ashamed. That's still a little bit weird, of course.
And if I can add to that, so we sort of have the same system in place. Our volunteers, we call collaborators. They don't volunteer, they participate and collaborate on the entire project. And afterwards, we call them heroes, because they set the example, even though if it's just picking up pieces of trash. But we add a value system to this approach. Yeah. And secondly, what we did is we contacted different universities and presented them our problems. So we have this situation, and we have this goal to become a circular festival by 2020. I presented our Revolution program at all those schools and universities. People could sign up as a collaborator and also join in those projects. So for example, there was, in our food court, there were 2 new composting machines, and small composting, industrial composting machines, which were able to reduce all the food waste of the festival. It's up to 30,000 meals or 40,000 meals in a day. And all the disposables, not plastic ones, but biodegradable, compostable disposables within 24 hours. So all the food waste turned into compost within 24 hours. And we asked all the students, how can we convey this? How can we tell people that this is the way to go and that these systems are already possible? So this way, it is created by peers. It's not a top-down solution. No, you know, it's students. It's people like you and me who came up with the solution, and then they don't tell you what to do. They ask you if you understand why this is important. So this is a entirely different mentality on presenting problem solution that works for festivals, and maybe this could help you as well.
Yeah, it helps me a lot, and then I can understand like that things like you do the social non-intervention, and then try to cultivate people's, the conscious about that, and then just do the really sexy events. Yeah, it's actually also interesting about the happy-based intervention about the green hospital, and then is it possible for you and then to Rainbow Zhou to generalize your the green hospital in China? How do you think about that?
No, what about green what? You mean about the sorry, I didn't get green what?
Green festival. No, green hospital. You talk about
the
you
forest.
face. Yeah, exactly.
The first, because we feel we want to do something more than only music festival. So we had this mindset after we have a group of people. We have 24 people had a company in Shanghai, joint venture. So everybody know the target. We are going to search something much more than music festival. And then people find out some TED Talks about the first station. So then Tommy searched and we found him. So now we feel, why not? We just start. You know, everything had to start. If you don't start, you never can move it. So then we start from this June.
Maybe someone else also has another question. Yeah. Okay, over there. Maybe, give to him, to the Chinese guy.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Cheng from Eindhoven University of Technology. Because I'm a technology student, so my question is based on technical perspective. I also like electronic music. I have been to many music festivals. So I have an idea. Have you ever considered about powering the music festival by sustainable technology? Because according to my knowledge, most of the music festivals are powered by diesel combustion generator. I don't know how much exactly the energy you can consume per festival, but I think it's a huge amount of energy, right? Yeah. If it would be powered by purely sustainable energy, that would be cool.
And that's exactly what we do. We power the entire festival with 100% green energy. And we got how? First of all, we use the grid in place, the current energy grid, which is the most effective way of obviously supplying energy. So we have a contract with a local green energy supplier that we can take all the energy and certified green energy from the grid, but this is not enough to supply the entire festival. So we need more energy. We have a higher energy demand. So in previous years, we had diesel generators. And of course, nowadays with new biofuels, the second generation of biofuels made from paper resin, I think it's a biodiesel. This is also certified green. But obviously, you don't want diesel generators by definition because they burn things. So last year, up to I think it was 80% of the generators were actually replaced by batteries, and all those batteries were charged with solar power. And then during the daytime, obviously the batteries drained, And at the nighttime, the batteries were then again charged, creating a buffer for the net. So this way, not only was the entire festival entirely powered by green energy, but we reduced CO2 emissions considerably. And now from this new way, because we created a hybrid network, we decided that next year we're going to replace all diesel generators because it is now possible. So batteries only, and that would make us the very first emission-free festival of this size. So I'm sad to say, unfortunately, most festivals still use outdated technologies. It is already possible, and look into it. So. Yeah.
I have one information. I just got the news from this ADE. Like one of the mentioned, I say we have a free hostel. One of the member, he moved to Hong Kong. He invented this speaker for festival. Just use solar system to get power. But if you run out of power, you can ride a bike, like have a bicycle wheel, and can generate. And then right now, Hong Kong government run his speakers everywhere to do music festival.
Even though that's a good solution, the amount of power that we use to supply the speakers, I would need half the city of no, maybe that's a bit too much, but we need almost everyone at the festival to be cycling. So this is not really a solution for us in a bigger scale. So yeah, sure, shoot. Yeah, I know what you're going to say. The pressure on the floor, that's kinetic energy. Unfortunately, the amount of kinetic energy and the voltage and wattage that's produced is way too low. So even if everyone was jumping at the same time to supply energy, I still wouldn't even get the lights to turn on. So yeah. It's a good idea, though. I mean, the idea is great. Only it's just not probable.
There was a club in Holland that tried it with such a dance floor, but they went bankrupt.
Well, but the thing is, I mean, it's guys like you who say, like, let's try this. And we're like, okay, let's do it. You know what? We're going to give you maybe some budget. We're going to connect you to the right people and run with it. Just try it. Just do it. Because if it's never been done before, then, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I was triggered by what you mentioned, that sitting on the couch you produce more waste, well, than being to the festival. So if you look to a city as Amsterdam, but also maybe a city as Barcelona, who are sort of problem because there are so many tourists and there are so many things going on, is it not an idea to design those new cities or these cities as an ongoing festival? So is this...
Well, this is the perfect idea, obviously, but no, you're looking at it from a problem situation. I try to look at this as an opportunity. So if there is a lot of tourists, well, that means you have a lot of potential to use those people.
You need a new design, because it's an old-fashioned idea. There's a city and people coming in it. You can say, no, we are an ongoing festival, and you are a guest, and join the festival.
Well, I absolutely love that. I think there will be a lot more happy people in the city, and it will definitely be a lot more fun. But
how you do that?
Okay, first of all, you're attached to the waste paradigm. That first of all, you need to let go of the idea that there is such a thing as waste, because waste is a mentality. And if you look at waste as a resource instead, you get into a resource mentality. You don't throw away resources. You don't squander resources. You take care of resources. You squander waste. So first of all, what you need to do is get people on a resource mentality and then create a new paradigm which enables them to use that resource mentality to the city's advantage. Well, this could be a city, a festival, a school, a university, a cruise terminal, a stadium, doesn't matter. What we show at the festival is that with this mentality, you can get a lot of people on board in a resource mentality so that they speak the same language, and then use the momentum of the festival and all the influencers to create a forced change. So, for example, our circular food court, which produces zero waste and compost only, can now be applied to stadiums. Because, well, stadiums, they have up to 40,000 people as well. You can manage it the same way as a festival, or an airport, for example, or a cruise terminal. Well, that's well, if you look at a city as a singular entity, then you won't be able to change it. But if you look at it from decentralized perspectives, then you can apply this resource methodology to each of the separate identities. So, first of all, go from waste to resource. Don't look at a city as a singular entity, but as a collection of entities, and then try to get those entities to do the same protocols. So that's a way to do it. And if the way to do it is a festival, then sure, works for me.
Yeah, so actually we sort of have to roll it up because it's time to rebuild this into a party zone. And yeah, so the time is finished.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, you were a wonderful audience. So let's give it up for all the panelists.
I want to say, like, everybody who joined these panels, you can get a free bracelet from Peter to join this night party for free. We have a China Pavilion showcase.
Yeah, so Peter is standing there in the corner. If you, yeah, he's hiding now. He can give you a bracelet if you like to be here. And we're gonna start at 7 p.m. It's gonna be two rooms here with the sound system and a silent disco battle in the small room. So you're all invited. And thank you very much for coming to China Talks today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.